because I'm still of the mantra of if you get fast profits, take it. But I'm slowly evolving into maybe there's a reason these fast profits are coming was because I'm probably right at the beginning, but I'm cutting myself off at the knees when it comes to why that idea was, good to begin with. And I kill the trade early.
Welcome back, everybody, to Be the Trader. Today, I have a very special guest. Nate Michaud referenced him and told me I need to start looking him up, and I did. And you know what? I was impressed, and he connected me to him, thankfully. And today I have Cody P, also known as Odd Stock Trader on Twitter. So if you don't know who he is, make sure to look him up. He has a lot of great content on there. But Cody, welcome to the show, my man. Thanks for being here.
It's great to be here.
Awesome, man. Let's start off. Let's just get going, man. I want to know really what got you into trading real quick, if you can. Like, what got you in this game?
Yeah, definitely. So the story was, everybody was kind of into online poker back in the 2008s, early high school, all that. So that was my biggest thing, is because when I was like 8, 9 years old, I would play my family members at poker and constantly win. So it was a big interest of, you kind of learn people's emotional reactions when they look at their cards and all that stuff. So a lot of that I felt like, kind of set me up for trading, but, I didn't have the money. So after, there was this I think it was Black Friday or Black Thursday. I don't remember the exact day, but there was a day where, online poker just got completely shut down across the entire country. The Fed seized everything, and it was like, well, there goes my hobby. What do I do now? And, so I just kind of took the weekend look, and I was like, this trading thing is really interesting. I know the market just crashed. The only thing I really knew was, buy low, sell high, from a piece of Warren Buffett's advice, back in the day. So like the first trade I ever made was even before, poker got eliminated, was on Fannie Mae back in, I think it was 2009, like March. I think I bought it at like $1.70, and then I lost like 40% in the next 2 days. And I was like, well, this is stupid. I'm just going to lose all my money because I have no idea what I'm doing. But I think the concept that I went to the market with was kind of right. I saw an asset that was $60 and I bought it at $1 thinking, hey, it was just 60. Maybe it'll go back there someday. And, that was kind of my approach, was to never really buy stuff that was already really expensive, was to buy stuff when it's cheap, So, kind of rolling into how I got started, I started looking at gold stocks and all that stuff back in 2011, because that was what everybody was talking about. And over time, I've learned that, I try to avoid everything that everybody's talking about, because that's usually not the best time to buy stuff. And my approach is almost 99% long. I'll short some things if it's the prime setup that I've seen over and over again. But for the most part, I love to be long. And if there's anything that the market has taught us in the last week and a half, is shorting can be very dangerous. And that was why I was never big into it, was because, if you want to put some money on the line, on a long, you're just going to lose at 100%. That's it. That's game over. But if you're wrong on the short side, you can lose more than what you put in there, which, as just a concept of money, is absolutely terrifying to me. Like, why would I want to bet this amount and then I could lose, more than I even bet? It'd be like going to a blackjack table betting $1,000, and then they're like, oh, you owe us $6,000, by the way. It's like, what? So, and I think it's kind of a really great time to just talk about that, because what is going on, I don't think maybe we'll see it again, but it's such a one-off weird scenario where everybody is at the market. Everybody's looking at it. It's like national news. So, to me, just this last week, it's like, get rid of everything that I have. Like, I don't like being a part of that popular culture trade, where when everybody's doing it, I tend to avoid it. Which seems weird, but that's just the approach I've taken over the years. But I guess back to like the early stages was, I had no money. Like my wife at the time managed the finances, and I was given like $25 a week, so I saved it. And then I lost half of it on the first trade that I made, on, unbeknownst to me, a pump and dump that I bought into, because all I saw was the chart went from 1 to 250 to 3, and I bought it that day. And then it closed at like $1.40, and I was like, what am I doing? I did it again, So it became just a learning process. And, my background, anybody that kind of knows me from back in the day is I'm a sports guy. I wouldn't necessarily call myself an athlete, but, I played baseball, basketball, soccer, tennis, track, just about most sports that I played. So I'm very competitive when it comes to just about anything. I tend to not allow, which I know is horrible, but I think you learn lessons from losses. If I play a friend of mine's, their daughter, like at Connect Four or something, I won't let her win. Like I will beat her because you could see the reaction in her face, just like, oh, you beat me again. And it kind of just instills that like fire inside you, like, well, I want to win. Damn it. What do I got to do to win? And, you let them win, over a course of time. But it's just the thing is that I think people underestimate what losses can do to you as far as a positive standpoint, because, the whole saying now is, participation medal society, which is kind of true. Everybody seems to be very, just I want it my way. And if I don't get it my way, I'm going to lash out, which is, it's not the best way to approach things is, figure out why you might be wrong. Like understand and open your mind to allow for different opinions to, maybe change that your opinion is wrong. And I don't think people allow that these days. So, taking that approach of everything, just athletes, sports, poker, I took it to the market and I failed miserably for the first probably 2 years with the limited amount of money that I had. I took out a loan against my 401k because I'm like, you know what, I have some money in here. Let's take out $1,000 and let's try it again. So I think I doubled that in like 2 days on some random biotech name. I had no idea what I was doing, but I bought it because, again, the chart was going up. But this time I did a little bit more research as to maybe why this might be a better trade. And, it ended up working. So just over the course of time, the trades worked. I didn't focus a whole lot during 2013, 2014, but I did watch Bitcoin go from, I think it was like $20 to 200 in the matter of a few days, and then back to $50 in one day. So the whole Bitcoin thing is what I was kind of watching early on, even in 2000, I think it was 2011, 2010 when I saw it online. I thought it was the dumbest thing because I remember internet currencies and beans in 1999 where people just got demolished. And I just said it's the same thing, so I didn't look into it. But as far as trading went along, I just slowly just kind of was like in the market because I was working full time, and I just dabbled here and there. I was like, oh, this looks interesting, and slowly started making money until I started paying attention to marijuana stocks in mid to late 2014, where I was like, well, I've done it before. It's a very interesting thing. I was totally against, and I shared this story on Twitter the other day. I was like, I was a person that drugs and alcohol, no way. I'm never going to do it ever. I had a high school graduation thing in Mexico. I got drunk, I got high, and I was like, this isn't that bad. Like, and maybe there's long-term effects, but then I actually started doing the research on it. And it's very, very interesting as far as the actual backstory of how it became illegal and all that stuff. But I allowed for myself to look and study and see what marijuana stocks were out there, what could be traded, because if there's one that's listed, and I think they were all OTC stocks. So, that kind of started my foray into just over-the-counter stocks because that's what was there. There were marijuana stocks. There was only like 4 or 5. So it was a matter of just making a bet on each one, and then, they all went. So it was kind of easy, but in retrospect, it was like, I foresaw an event that because of legalization news in Washington and Oregon that, this is likely to bring some interest into people. And I don't want to be the person who is reading the news late and buys it at the top, just like the same thing. As soon as it becomes popular, I don't want to talk about it. I want to be a part of it, which seems so strange, but that's the mindset that I've taken is I would rather buy stuff and trade stuff when nobody cares and nobody talking about it. So, which has worked very well. And just over the course of time, I eventually built up enough funds in different accounts that I was like, all right, I'm gonna go for this. and I'm just going to bite the bullet. I'm going to go full time 2015. And it was, it was brutal. I didn't find a lot of success because it immediately went from, my wife's still working, but now my income is solely reliant on money I make out of the market, which is a totally different mindset than I'm working. So my bills are going to be paid, but now all of a sudden that's gone. So if I fail, it's, bad news bears. So I always kind of loved from the aspect of athletics and sports that I want to be the guy that has the ball in the last minute of the game. I want to take the last shot. And if I miss, I'm going to hate myself for it. But you also get that hero feeling in a weird way of, I know I can do it. Let me do it. And that's just the kind of mentality, is that when my back is to the wall, and it's been against the wall a few times, especially in trading, where, this thing just clicks in my head and says, I can't lose. Like I cannot lose. I refuse to lose. What do I have to do to make money? And so those tend to be the times where, when I'm in that mentality, I focus really hard on what is the best possible risk reward trade that I can find, and I take it. And sometimes it's all intraday. I'll sell it within minutes, whatever it is, because I'm still of the mantra of, if you get fast profits, take it. But I'm slowly evolving into, maybe there's a reason these fast profits are coming, was because I'm probably right at the beginning, but I'm cutting myself off at the knees when it comes to why that idea was, good to begin with. And I kill the trade early. So just over time, my process has kind of evolved to, what, I'm okay with being early if I think the idea is the same concept as the marijuana trade, which is why I'm really focused right now on like psychedelics, because I start seeing these articles, I start seeing news pieces, and it's very like fringe stuff, but the data, the actual science that's coming out on it is very, very intriguing, very interesting. So I'm kind of more paying attention to like, what are these trials, providing? And as far as a trade aspect, it's the first time that I've really taken, and it was great. Somebody recommended it. The book, let me see if I have it over here really fast, is The Unknown Market Wizards. So there was I bought it, and I bought like 10 books at once. And there was a gentleman in there. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, which he might get mad at me for now. But anyways, somebody told me to read this chapter. And so I'm like, wow, this sounds exactly like my thought process right now. Like even before I read it, I had made a list of 15 different psychedelic stocks, and I'm like, I'm just going to buy all of them, and whichever ones work, I'll buy more of, and then I'll just maybe cut the other ones, or I'll just let them go to zero. Which is a weird new strategy that I've kind of taken an approach where I'll just take a certain amount of money, I'll put it in a trade, and if I lose it, whatever. Like as soon as I buy it, I consider the money gone. Which is tough for a lot of people to grasp. But I think over the course of doing this for 10 years, to me, it's just like, this is a trade that I want to be a part of. Here's the amount of money that I won't even think about. And then if I look back and, it's gone from 6 cents to $2.50, you go, wow. So that's kind of the approach that I take on a lot of things now. It's like a shotgun approach. Like if I like a sector, I'll just buy all of that sector, especially if it's something that I think is going to be the next talked about topic. And that's where I kind of think we are with these mushroom plays, is that, I'd rather just own them all. And you really only need one or two to, 10 or 20X to, offset the losses from the other 10 that were absolute crap. So it's definitely an interesting approach. It's evolved over, 10 years of just how I approach stuff. But, late 2015, early 2016, I'll get back to that point, is that it was very tough. If you look at like the S&P 500, it was not the easiest overall trading environment because it was just chop. Like if you pull it up, it's very just this for about 7 months, and nothing really had a trend. Nothing was really obvious, at least as far as in my eyes, as a great trade. So a lot of the breakouts that would happen would immediately get sold into. And since being a long trader and having this fail over and over again was just mentally torture. So didn't do very well, hung in there until I think it was early 2017. And I think Trump got elected, and I just remembered reading something. I don't remember where it was from. Might have been in like reminiscence of a stock operator or something. Is that when there's a large change in society, which a new president could bring, regardless of your political party, markets tend to always do very well, regardless for the first year. So if you take a look, even this year, new president, market's been pretty much straight up. If you take a look at 2017, market went on an absolute tear until that person was able to kind of assert their power and figure out where they stood on the world platform. Obviously, the U.S. president's pretty powerful, but a lot of the things in the market just hum along until specific events or policies are made that have large impacts. So 2017 was, to me, one of my easiest years, one of my best years until this year and the end of last year. But it kind of gives you that confidence. And I think confidence is the biggest thing in this game, is that if you come to, I'll use a poker analogy again, if you come to the table with scared money, you're going to lose. Like there's no question about it. You will lose. So if you take that approach with trading, as far as I'm going to make money, but as soon as you have no confidence and you just start and you don't know really what you're doing, you're probably going to lose. But the biggest thing, and I think Nate even posted it, was that I didn't want to give up. I knew that I could do this. It was worth the work. That if I figure it out in 5 years, it's better than slaving away at 30 years at a job that I probably absolutely hate. Now you can do whatever you want for the rest of your life because you took the time to learn something that allows you to do what you want, where you want, when you want. And it's like 2020, the virus is horrible, but it was, in the trading world, it was a perfect storm, and I don't know if we'll ever get these conditions again after everything opens up, because you have to kind of realize everybody's stuck at home. Everybody doesn't have jobs, and you go to the internet and you're like, what is there to do? How can I maybe make money on the internet? And trading is the quickest, fastest thing where you can become a trader immediately. And you don't necessarily need to have any skills to do it. You can just do it. So as far as the amount of market participants, it's hard pressed for me to think that once this subsides, because it will, we ever get conditions like this again, because unless the world shuts down, I don't think I'll be alive to see this many people so enraptured in the market. It's just, it blows me away, because what's happening, especially with GameStop, is like a once in a probably 50-year thing. Like, it's hard for me to see that happen again. There was Volkswagen in 2008, which I didn't see and I didn't understand, but it's a really weird situation to see this. But as far as the process goes, it was always, for me, trading, as far as like timeline wise, 2017 to 2018 was, Bitcoin was roaring. And as soon as it broke out over $1,000, I had like I think it was a weird price alert that I had. And by the way, price alerts were the best thing ever for trading. It hit $1,000, and like I got this email alert from, I think it was some weird exchange that I had in 2013, that it broke its all-time high again. And I was like, well, maybe I should look at this. And then I think it went right back down to like $800 like the next day. But it put my eyes back on it, and that's why price alerts, I have like thousands of them set, because they do the work. I do the work on like a Saturday or Sunday, and I do that work so that if it happens during the day, my eyes can immediately go from, oh, maybe this thing isn't doing well, and all of a sudden, oh, let me take a look at this, because I probably set that alert for some specific reason. And so 2017, 2018 were just these years of very steady trends. Breakouts are working, did very well. And then 2018 was probably one of the toughest. And then 2019 was also really just a tough year. I changed where I live, bought a new house. And I think that goes to the effect of mentality. So I'm that kind of person that, the account size kind of is your scorecard. And when all of a sudden that scorecard just goes way down because you spent it, whatever it is, on a material asset, it shifts your psyche a little bit to go, oh, I was just here, now I'm here. what did I do wrong? And so all of like 2019 was very challenging as far as that just big shift. And some people can get through it really, really easy, but I'm more about the protect what you make. So, it's great that because everybody's probably crushing it right now. I know that everybody is. Maybe not new traders, but when I found myself and talking to other people about the amount of positions that I was holding was unlike anything I've ever done in 10 years. Having multiple hundred stocks is not a normal thing for me. So as soon as, I was going to say, I'm going to let the market tell me when might be the time to get rid of this. And, I'm a very instinctual gut person that as soon as I started feeling these weird feelings, I'm like, I'm just going to start getting rid of it. Like it's okay to take these gains that have come so incredibly fast that, take a step back, let it sink in a little bit. And that's why I think that a lot of the market, once things open up, is going to be very boring because a lot of people that did very well are going to go places and not be sitting at the computer for, hours on end. So that's my thought process. Will be interesting if somebody watches this later in the year and if the market just is a slug for, March till November, which I kind of expect, depending on if things open up. But when it comes to trading process for me, it's still that I want to find an asset that I think is worth more than what the market is pricing it at. And maybe that comes from because the first person I listened to was obviously Warren Buffett because he's just some regular Joe guy that got into the markets and look what he was able to do. So like his early teachings is still where I try to go because I had this discussion last night because I met another trader and we talked for 4 hours. We could probably talk for 10 more, but eventually you want it to all be passive. I think that's the thing is like, I don't want to sit here for the rest of my life and look at these absurd amount of monitors that I have. I want to be, sitting on the beach somewhere and letting the work that I did the last 5 years do the work for me now. Which is very capitalistic, but that's the society that we live in. And I think it's the right one. Just look through history and you'll figure out why. But I guess process always comes in the form of profits when you actually put the work in.
Let me ask you this, man. So first off, I appreciate you sharing all of that because now I have a lot more insight of where your mindset is, where you came from. And my first question is, when we go back to, it took about 2 years to find your own kind of way.
Yeah.
What ended up being your specific way back then? Because I know what it is now. It's like over time it's changed, but what initially got you your success and said, you know what? I want to go full time because you weren't full time yet. And then you just decided to go full time. So what was it that was your way, if you will? And was there something holding you back to find that way? And then what did you do to get rid of that, whatever was holding you back?
So I think it was confidence and I think it was probably overconfidence at that time too, because a lot of the trades in the marijuana sector were very easy. Like if you go back and take a look at some of these charts, they 20x'd. So, the trades were very, very easy back then. And so I got probably overconfident in early 2015. I'm like, the thing was that I'm making more money doing, trading while I'm at work because weird situation, but I could trade while I was at work, but I have to hide the screen really fast. So if you learn how to alt tab on your keyboard, you'll figure out how to hide stuff from your boss really quick. But I was making more money in, one day than I would in 2 weeks. And so that does a mental shift to you're like, geez, do I really want to sit here all day doing something that I'm getting paid a pittance for? Or do I want to just see if what I'm doing now on the side allows me to just do it for the rest of my life? So I definitely went way too early. I think, I probably should have allowed myself to make the decision in a bad place. And this is something that if there's a piece of advice is don't make life decisions while riding high, make life decisions when you have come down from that high. Because, if you make all this money and then you make stupid decisions, like cashing out your 401k and then not realizing tax situations, or you've made all these profits and then you pay off your house and then you're like, uh-oh, I got to pay taxes on this. A lot of mistakes can be made very quickly by people that, make a lot of money and then they don't really understand the ramifications if they don't, let it sink in for a little while of maybe I should do this, maybe I should do this. So, it's like playing a sports game, a lot of mistakes made by people after they win a big thing. They're doing it because they're on that high.
Yep.
It's like, remember the Titans where the guy wins the game and then he's an idiot in his car and he gets hit. Like that's the thing I'm talking about is don't make decisions when you're so in such a great place that you might make the wrong decision. So
thank you for saying that, man. Cause I think that's huge, man. I think it goes both ways. Like if you're in a really bad place, every decision you make is going to be in that light.
Yep.
Every decision you make up here is going to be in that like glory, everything's perfect light. So you gotta, like wait till you get to that center. When you get centered, make your decisions and then be more logical. Let me ask you this though, because I kind of asked you two questions. So I probably lost you on the first one when I asked the second one. I realized that the first one is what initially found your success. I know you said you were just buying things, but why was it just because you were just buying, or like because you saw it move, or was there like a setup, a strategy? Were you more fundamentals? Were you more like, give me an idea of what that was at the beginning?
Yeah, so it definitely. I haven't gotten into fundamentals until the last like probably 8-9 months, but it was news aspects. So I kind of even realized in the last year and a half, I'm a very good news trader. So even back then I was just starting to read like the legalization, how popularized that, this marijuana is, to me, it was, yes, it's going to get recreationally legal in states. Like it's going to happen. As far as, I'm from Washington State. So I kind of know the mentality of just how, that area is. And I'm like, people are going to legalize this and they're going to be one of the first ones to do it. Obviously I think it was Colorado, but, I just saw that was coming. I saw that would be a news thing. And I'm like, I should buy marijuana stocks with the limited amount of money that I had at that time. And it just worked. And I think that's probably a good point is that if you take a trade and it just works, that's something to look back on and say, okay, I made this trade. Why did it work? Why did it work so well versus these other trades that I just jumped in on? But yeah, it was reading the news that the odds that, marijuana was going to become legalized just gave me the confidence to be like, I just want to buy it. Where do I buy a marijuana stock? Where is it? And the first time, and I still have this email to this day, and I posted it on Twitter was, I'm a very computer nerd kind of guy. Like I built a website when I was 9 out of HTML, that type of stuff. And in 2000, I think it was 2010, I guess it's a good little backstory, was that I wanted to start a business where it was an outdoor boot camp, and I said, I don't want to have to take this big credit card swiper machine and take people's information. I want something that goes into my phone and I could swipe a credit card and then that's it. I'm done. I take their money and I could do it in the middle of the thing. So, I scoured the internet for this thing and I came across a company called Square. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. It's a little card reader that plugs into the headphone jack of your phone and it accepts credit cards. So I signed up to get one. I had to wait 6 months to get this card reader because the company was just so new. And the second I used it, I was like, can I buy this stock? I'm like, this is going to be absolutely brilliant. Like, this is genius. And they weren't traded until like 2016 or something like that. But I sent an email to the lady. I'm like, are you guys traded on Wall Street? Like I'm getting into stocks. Like, can I buy stock in Square? And she's like, no, we're not traded. But just, it's just a crazy story that I take that approach now with a lot of things is the end game is I don't want to do day trading all the time. It's a great thing. It gets you to places to do other things, but I'm more of, I want to find companies and make bets on these companies that do well. But
it's almost like investing or swing trading. Like you're more of a longer term, like you'll buy
longer term time frame. Yeah.
And so you brought up day trading though. So like, were you day trading too? And
oh yeah.
Like, so what was your day trading? Obviously it was fueling the other type of trading, like the other type of investment.
So like, that's what I would do is like day trades. I would, and I even mentioned this to the guy last night. I'm not going to necessarily name names. Just,
sure.
I respect other people's privacy, but like if you make, it's a random number. Like let's say you make 10 grand on a trade. but you also have this other idea that you're really interested in. And this is kind of my thing is I have multiple accounts of multiple brokerages that I use for different ideas and different reasons.
Yes.
So you make 10 grand on a trade, take 5% of that immediately. If you can, wire it into this other account for this other idea that you think might be good in 5 years. And there's countless ones that I've looked back on and I'm just like, why didn't I do this earlier? Like Kirkland was trading at 60 cents. I'm shopping in the store and I'm like, this company is only worth $16 million. They don't have that much debt. Pier 1's going out, like all these other companies in the same sector were going out of business. And I'm like, I don't think these guys are going to go out of business. I should buy some of this stock. And then Nate even writes back to me, he's like, you should buy a stake in the company. And I just kind of laughed it off. But, here we are now and Kirkland's at like $26 a share. And I'm like, how weird is that? And getting into trading just kind of puts you in this mindset to look at the world in a little bit different of a light where you're like, I'm at Starbucks. Why don't I buy Starbucks stock when I buy a coffee? It's one of those things. So if I go to Starbucks now, I literally buy a share of Starbucks every time I buy a coffee. So it's one of those things where if I want a Starbucks, it's going to cost me over $100 to buy a Starbucks.
I love that she's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, brother.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I love that you said that because I haven't been trading nearly as long as you, Nate, a lot of the people who've been on the show, but I've been trading for 4 years and I have been swing trading a lot more now. And I've been buying longer term. Like I've been buying Starbucks. I've been buying Southwest Airlines. I've been buying Disney, and it's just weird because as I've grown as a trader myself, I'm more so looking for other ways to not trade. I'm looking for more ways where I can let me same way you said, if I'm at Starbucks, it got me thinking. Same idea, man. I was at Starbucks with my wife and I was like, I wonder what Starbucks is doing. It makes you think different. You start to see the world differently. And it sounds like you are not just like, I shouldn't say that, but you're very similar to Splendor's mindset of how he trades now. And also this guy on social media who also, he's an investor. He doesn't trade, but he invests in companies, but they both use the idea of social arbitrage, right? Like seeing what's happening and your idea of Kirkland, you were there, you were kind of feeling the mojo, seeing what's happening, seeing what else is happening in the market, and then putting in perspective and placing a bet, and trying to figure it out. And I love that you said that because it's just inspiring because I'm sure there's other people who don't have time to trade, right? They don't have time to day trade, but they go out there every day, just like you and me, and experience things. And I really like Square. Maybe they could have bought it a long time ago. So thank you for saying that, man. When it came to day trading, what style of a day trader? I know you were long bias, but it sounded like breakouts was your thing. And is that the case?
Yeah. So, and it's funny because it's in that book as well, but my approach to breakouts used to always be by the top line breakout. So if an asset was breaking out to new all-time highs, that's when I would buy it. And I said, well, obviously it made this move from some low to do this for some reason. So I wanted to find out that reason. And then I wanted to find out, well, what did the chart look like, after that reason? And Nate, his DVD was there's a thing called ABCD setup. So you get a big move to the upside, it fades off, and it kind of grinds back to the highs. So I said, anytime any stock makes a big move to the upside, I just try to remember it. And now I make an actual list in Thinkorswim of what stock that was. And then I name the sector. So if it's retail, whatever it is, and I make a note of it. And I try to keep track of, okay, it's fading off, but I always just try to remember, okay, maybe I should look back at this and see where it's at. So the breakouts that I love the most are, and it's funny because I wrote this in 2015 on one of my own websites, it's that B portion of the ABC. So when it makes the big move and then that B portion, there's always a trend line that's a downtrend. And as soon as it breaks over that, I set my risk based off of where that low was. So I won't be trying to necessarily catch that low, but I'll have that trend line. And as soon as it cracks over that, it has to start acting correctly, or I'll immediately just get out of it because then it could just continue its descend. But I found that those tend to be the best trades that I've ever made is that downtrend line after a large upward move. So it evolves to the point of, where's the better risk reward on the same asset that I probably want to own, but I don't want to own it at all time highs. I'd rather own it with a way lower average type of thing. So trading is an ever evolving thing where you figure things out in your own mind. You're like, wow, I did this, but why did I do this? And could I have done it better earlier? And so that's kind of the approach that you at least I take. Short side, it's you always wait for that big parabolic move and then sell into it and hope it doesn't go to $350.
Good luck, people. Yeah, I want to ask you something too, because you said earlier when you were explaining your journey, I don't remember if I got the year right, but it was like 2016, 17 when the market was kind of, or 15, the year didn't matter, but when it was kind of like sideways and it was kind of difficult for you. Why was it difficult for you? And what was it that you were doing at that time? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So like I said, 2014 was pretty easy because a lot of marijuana names just went straight up. So I had overconfidence that I'm like, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to succeed. And then this 2015 was I don't remember all like the news headlines, but it was just a very choppy thing as far as anytime there was the breakout that I knew to buy failed. And so every trade I was taking, I just immediately lose. And so it was more of a overconfidence, a different mindset where now I have to make money and I wasn't making money. So then you just start going to this deeper hole of, oh my God, I'm failing and I'm failing again and again and again that, you have to shake yourself out of it. And sometimes the best thing to do is just stop looking at it and get yourself away from that thing. Give yourself at least a few days to just reset your mind and get a fresh approach, because what you're doing obviously isn't working. So how can you, pull yourself out of a bad situation and reapproach it with a better, set of eyes. So, it was just a massive struggle for that year, paying bills, being at the lows, scraping by on trades, it just became this thing that I have to succeed or I'm going back to work at something I hate to do. And there were days where I'm like, I'm done. Like I wanted to quit, but then the next morning I woke up, I'm like, no, I can't let myself just, because if I give up, I'll regret it forever.
Yep.
And that was just kind of the mental approach that I had was, I think sports did it. If I was we didn't win all the time, but we won a lot, in a lot of the teams that I played on. But, if we were given that, oh, it's okay, you did okay, aspect, which it's prevalent, but I'm not going to knock it because it's great to build encouragement for kids. But I just think that fire was, I have to do it. Like I don't want to fail. So I think that was a big aspect of why I stuck through that period of time that was just brutal. And I said, the market will change eventually. The breakouts will work. I just got to stick through it. And the sticking through it part, everybody can say you're lucky, but when you do this for so long, it's really not luck. It's you're waiting for the right opportunity. And that's really all it is, you could have bought Kirkland at $7 in the same scenario that I was shopping in, but then you're going to lose 99% of your money. So a lot of it comes to timing, opportunity, and all those things. They just have to line up. And I think you learn that with just experience and, having the confidence to take that money and make a bet on it. And, if you're wrong, you lose it all, which in the market is pretty rare. Very few things actually go to zero, but it's the same approach. Like that's the approach that I take now is like, I would never have found myself starting to buy Lockheed Martin because I think, they pay like a 4% dividend, which is, way better than any, interest rate you can get on your money right now. And they're also, in a sector that, do I think in 10 years, aerospace and space travel is going to be a thing? Yeah. So why not make those bets now when these assets are, underperformed for the last 5 years and they're paying me to hold the stock. So that's kind of the approach that I take on some of these things and other accounts where I put the money in. All I can see is my buying power. I don't look at the balances. I just say, do I want to buy this? Does it pay me? Yeah, I'm going to buy it. Do I think it's going to be worth more? Probably. The odds are probably in my favor. It's better than a casino. So I used to love gambling. I hate gambling now, but because I just know I'm going to lose at a casino more often than not. So it's like, I posted a thing on Twitter. It's like, make X amount trading, lose $100, on a slot machine, you want to pull your hair out because it's just like, I'm such an idiot. Why did I do this? So it's just really funny how trading changes your view of the world.
I like that you said, sometimes it's important to take a step back to reset.
Yeah.
And because during that time, it was tough for you. And especially the mentality, I love that you're so vulnerable and sharing the idea of like, man, when you're trying to make things ends meet because you're trading to make a living and you're trying to make that happen, it's even extra stress. And for people who are listening, just know it's not easy. Like the social media shows you and you think, oh my God, I could do this easily and quit my job because I did that and it sucked. So
yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. And so, what I'm curious about, first off, you took a break, you reset it, you got a clear head, you came back. And then also, I don't want to even go over the fact that just the idea of how you've been thinking of like, Lockheed and just all those tidbits of golden nuggets. If you're listening, go rewind all of this because he's already released so many great golden nuggets that you guys can help change how you think and view the world and how a trader actually views the world, which is really cool. So I really appreciate you saying that, Cody. But I want to know, when you came back with that fresh set of eyes, did you still trade the same way in terms of the same setup? Because even though it wasn't working so much, did you adjust your whole kind of setup at that time period? I'm just kind of getting an idea because there's going to be a time where someone's working right now on trading and they're doing well, maybe because everything's going up and they're buying OTC breakouts because those work. CBDD, quote, shout out. Really good stock that broke out. I actually bought that. Anyway, long story short, though, they're going to go through a period where that shit's not working. Those breakouts, it's going to be 2016, 17, like you experienced. What did you actually do? Did you just wait it out and not trade that much? Or did you
kind of
more specific, like give an idea of how did you adjust? Because people are going to need to learn how to adjust in the future.
I think community is a good thing to have, especially like, that's why I love being part of a chat room. It's like there's other people that, and Nate and I have done it both to each other. It's like when you're doing shitty, you need to release like the thought process to somebody else that understands that they've gone through it too. Like, so what's their mental advice to give you when you're going through drawdowns? Like, dude, I can't, nothing I'm doing is working. What, like, this is so annoying. I hate trading, like that's that's the mindset you go through. But the best thing to do is, don't run when you're I can't remember the saying off the top of my head, but there's a saying where you don't run, walk when you're bleeding, type of a thing, where, if you're losing, don't compound the issue by forcing more trades. Take a step back and start crawling. So, one of those things I started to do was I started lowering my size back to like what everybody calls piker size. So I'm like, if I'm wrong, I'd rather be wrong small than long big again. And it's the same thing with, and that thought process came from poker. When you start doing better, you start playing higher stakes. And then when you hit that ceiling of, well, now I'm playing against some really good people and I'm not seeing the success that I did at these other levels, you have to bite the bullet and go back down and accept the fact that maybe I wasn't ready to trade at this level because the amount of money is now messing with my head. And there's prodigies that can just doesn't even phase them. But most people, you have to just take that moment, take a step back. I need to lower my size. What I'm doing isn't working. So why lose, 5 times the amount when I could be wrong on a smaller amount? Yeah, it sucks, but it's necessary.
If you could do me a favor, scoot up a little bit because it sounds way clearer when you do talk. Thank you. And then the other thing is, so I want to ask you a couple more things, and that is, if you could go back in time in 2015, when you decided to go and just say, you know what, I'm going to do this thing, marijuana stocks are going hot, and give yourself advice so that way you could be where you are today, more confident where you're at and how you trade and how you've been adjusting more long-term as well. What would you give yourself? What would you tell yourself if you could do that?
And I hope my microphone didn't change. Just told me my microphone changed. So if it sounds even worse, let me know.
That's good. It's good now.
Okay. I mean, what I would tell myself back then is, give yourself more time, more patience on ideas that if I think I'm ahead of the crowd on a lot of trades, which is, my whole mantra is I'd rather be first than last. even if it means taking a bullet to the chest and being wrong on 80% of the trades, give the trade some time. I found that my thought process tends to work. So as long as you've got that going for you, that your thought process and it works, even if you didn't make the trade all the way to its highs, was your initial thought right? So if I had to go back and tell myself, I'm like, if you have an idea, allow the idea to pan out for a little bit more time. But there's also the fact that you have less money. So you get sucked into the other trades that are the 100% mover on the day. You're like, oh, well, this thing's moving so much, so fast. I'm going to sell it so I can get a part of this thing. So I think that, myself now versus then, I was that person of like, wow, this thing's going crazy. I could double my money right now if I just sell this and buy this. Whereas now it's like, I can do both. I can keep that other trade on while taking the other trade with, the amount of size that I want for that specific idea or that day trade, but leaving on the other trades that I don't have to, waste mental capital of today on when I've already used that idea, in the past. So it's patience is an asset that I think people have lost in the last decade, as far as you have to have patience for some things, and good things take time. It's a great Wall Street quote from the original, where the guy just says, sometimes good things take time. And I think that's very, very true. So exercise patience.
Okay. And I want to, because, it's not often I have a long bias trader, and most of us are short bias, or lean more towards short, right? And so you lean more towards long mainly. And so I want to ask you, for the long people listening, what's a piece of advice you can give your long bias traders who are just starting out to, maybe it's a mentality as a long bias, whatever a piece of advice you can give to someone who's starting out to become a long bias trader, what they can look out for or think about when they are trading that way?
Time is on your side, number one. Markets tend to always go up in the long run. Trust me, short selling, I love doing it. It has to be the right moment. But as far as like people that are long biased, it's more of like formulate a plan, an idea around the trade versus just trading the hot stock of the day. I exclusively almost never trade. And obviously right now is insane. But even back in September, October of this year, it was like, there were stocks that would go 300-400% in the day, but I didn't even look at them. I didn't trade them because, I had a plan coming into the day that I'm going to, if I'm going to waste all this mental capital the night before of researching and finding the things that I find familiar, I don't want to waste all that work, which I used to do by looking at the hot stock of the day. I would rather be like, all right, people that are starting out, believe me, it's a hard thing to do is ignore those big movers. But, because I did it. But I think just over time, realize that the work you do on the weekends and the work you do after hours is for a reason. And you have to let that work pay you. So it's a matter of, if you put in the time and you put in the effort, allow that time and that effort to be to your benefit and not get distracted, is what I call those trades. Is they're distraction trades to me now, is the one big stock that moves crazy on the day.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, and I think that's important, because when I used to do that, I used to like create a plan, and then
you wake up.
I wake up and then I see something moving, and then I go after this, and then my plan fucking worked, yeah. and I lost on the one that was moving,
Yep.
So especially when you're new. I mean, when you've been trading for years, like now I trade hot stocks, like I do, and I like them. But like back in the day when you're new, like you might want to trade the ones you had a plan for rather than the ones that are just on a whim today, just caught your radar. Because I'm telling you, you're trading because you're emotional. Like you're getting so excited, and it's going to make money, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes. But Cody, before we start to wrap this up, first off, thanks for being here. I want to ask you two last things. The first thing is, when it comes to, because you brought up the idea earlier, one of my questions, you said just make sure you have, like, you plan out before. Just now you said make sure you plan out before and then execute on that. What does that mean to you in terms of a plan or a setup? Like, how do you go about looking at something and devising that?
Time frame. So, like some of the trades that I made recently, like on these drone stocks, it was, I don't remember where I read it, but some of the best things, I don't remember where I read the one thing that made me look into a sector was that, I want to be a part of these drone names. Which ones are the best? Which ones are the cheapest? Is, find these things that, okay, if I buy it now and I make the day trade, okay, that's cool, which I know a lot of people do, but I tend to buy stuff now more with a longer time frame. So it's like, I don't think this is going to necessarily work today, tomorrow, the next day, but in a month, is this going to be worth more? Probably based off of sentiment, news, what the world is doing. I take into account all those things now. So like, if I see a piece of news that crosses my screen and I'm like, this is really weird, I'll actually stop what I'm doing as far as like main trades, and I'll read this piece of news. Like one of them was, just as an example, is like I saw a news article of Dragonfly, I was like, what is this? But it had specific drone COVID testing and vaccines that it was delivering. I was like, that's really weird. What is this company? So I actually started to research this company. They were valued at like 16 million bucks. I'm like, that seems kind of cheap for an emerging, industry. And I looked at, the actual balance sheet and all that stuff. I'm like, does my time frame line up with all these things? I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll buy this. And now I want to look for the other ones. What are the other drone stocks that might be good, that aren't toxic debt? And there really weren't any. And so it comes down to time frame, I think. So is your time frame to make a 10-minute trade, an hour trade, a full day trade, a swing trade? I think you have to realize that coming to the market and what your idea is going to pan out to be.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying that as well, because I think it sounds like you said already, like you're more so thinking longer term. And so I think this can help a lot of people who can or may not be able to like trade and work, but maybe they can trade and think longer term, right? Like in kind of like a swing trade or investment mentality. Now, one thing I want to remind everyone is Cody said many times he has different accounts. And different accounts, like one's for maybe day trading, one's for maybe this idea, one's for maybe this type of ideas, because it's very easy to trade it all in one account. And then if one trade is not working, but you're killing it over here in day trading, the mentality could really change, and how you execute another strategy could really mess you up. So just know it's important to maybe have different ideas or whatever it may be in different accounts, whether it's small accounts or not, it doesn't matter. But the other thing is, Cody, if anyone wants to know more about you, ask any questions, can you let them know how can they find you?
I guess Twitter's probably easiest. I found that over the years, if it's a well-formulated question that I know that you really like want an answer. Number one, I trade at Investors Underground. Right now, I can't answer any PMs in the middle of the day because I get like 30, 40, and I'm like, I have no time to answer all these. I found that the trading day is the trading day. But Twitter, if you're with like a well-formulated question, I usually don't follow people and DM them, but if it's a public question about something, that is very trading centric and related, I usually answer it. But it can't be just like, should I buy this? I ignore that type of crap. And it comes down to, before you click the send button, think about what you're asking. So, yeah, and I'm pretty usually happy to answer these things and post and share the information that I find, because my thing is the team aspect of, if I can do one thing that helps somebody else get to where I am, that in itself can be more rewarding than a lot of things. So.
Thanks, man. And don't forget, everyone, Google is your friend too. Like if it's a simple answer, simple question, please, like if you ask someone a question that can easily be Googled. Someone asked me the other day, what does PDT mean? I was just like, come on, dude. Like Google is your friend. Yeah. So anyway, look, man, thank you so much for being here, Cody. It was a pleasure talking to you, and great fun. And I got a lot of value personally out of this, where it's got me thinking more and more of just like how I was thinking, to focus in on them. Like, maybe there's something there over there. Okay. So I appreciate that, my man. And maybe in the future, man, heck, who knows? We'll have you back on the show, my man. So thank you so much for being here.
It was a blast. We'll definitely do it again.